Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we continue with a deeply emotional new chapter in the journey of Lie Too Deep and CEO James, a quiet yet passionate love story, filled with trials, tears, and faint glimmers of hope. In the previous episode, we witnessed Deep, despite countless hardships and heartbreak, determined to find James, the one she believes to be the last light in her stormy life. But fate played a cruel trick. Just when she was at her weakest, the sky opened up and poured down like never before. With no warm clothing, no shelter, and no one by her side, Deep walked through the cold, desolate forest, drenched in rain throughout the night. Her body, already fragile after the snakebite, could no longer endure the cold. She collapsed beside a small fire she had managed to build with the last of her strength, a flicker of warmth amidst the dangers of the night. In her unconscious state, Deep dreamed of James, that familiar figure appearing through the mist, gently calling her name with tears in his eyes. Was it just a dream, a memory, or a final glimmer of hope from her fading heart? Meanwhile, somewhere far away, James was still desperately searching for her. He defied the weather, the dangers, and the doubts of those around him, because he knew, even a moment's delay could mean losing the woman he loved more than life itself. Will Deep survive this fateful night? Will James reach her in time before it's too late? Is their love, though scarred and battered, strong enough to hold them together? All will be revealed in today's episode. Stay with us, every second ahead will stir your soul, take your breath away, and remind you that true love still exists. Don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next episodes. The next morning. The morning sun gently filtered through the forest canopy, casting a soft light over Deep's pale, exhausted face. After a long night battling a high fever, her body was still trembling. Cold sweat clung to her skin, her clothes were soaked, and her limbs were so weak that closing her eyes for just a few more seconds might have meant never opening them again. And yet, with a fragment of willpower still flickering inside her, Deep forced herself to sit up. She had no idea where the strength came from. All she knew was that she couldn't collapse. Not now. Not here. Not in this godforsaken place where not a single soul could hear her cry. Her trembling hands pressed against the earth as she staggered to her feet, swaying like a leaf in the wind, and began taking slow, heavy steps, as if walking through a dream. Hunger. The hunger gnawed at her from the inside like a dull knife carving through her flesh. She had gone without food for days. After the rain, the fever, the chills, her body was now nothing more than an empty shell. No energy, no water, not even a voice left to call for help. Then, as if by a small miracle amid the unforgiving wilderness, Deep spotted a wild tree by the side of the path. Clusters of reddish-purple berries hung from its branches, heavy and fragrant with a sweet scent. Forest birds flocked around it, chirping and pecking at the ripe fruits. It was like a scene from a dream. Deep's eyes lit up. She whispered through shallow breaths. If the birds can eat them, maybe I can too. With no other choice, she reached up and picked a few berries, hurriedly eating them. The taste was strange, slightly bitter, but with a hint of sweetness at the end. Just a little, just enough nourishment to cling to life. But no. Within minutes, before she could even process what was happening, everything around her began to spin. Her vision blurred. Her legs gave out. And then, darkness swallowed her whole. Deep collapsed on the side of the dirt path, her head tilted to one side, tangled hair covering her pale, lifeless face. Her breath was so faint it could not be heard. A breeze rustled through the leaves, and time itself seemed to stop. And yet, a miracle happened. Just as death seemed to reach out its hand, a distant rattling sound echoed through the forest, the sputtering of an old motorbike. It was Chidoi, a kind-hearted woman from a nearby ethnic village who lived alone in a small hut not far from the woods. That morning, as usual, she had gone to the market to trade vegetables for salt. But for some unknown reason, on her way home, she turned onto a narrow forest trail, a path she hadn't used in years. Later, Chidoi would say, "I don't know why I took that path. It felt like something, or someone, was pulling me there. And that sudden, fateful detour saved a life." At first, Chidoi thought the figure lying by the roadside was the carcass of a wild animal. But as she drew closer, she froze. It was a young woman. Thin. Pale. Motionless. No reaction. Her hands trembling, Chidoi reached out to check. The girl's heart was still beating. Faint, but there. Her breath was barely a whisper, fragile, fading. Without hesitation, without question, without fear, Chidoi lifted deep onto her back. Along the muddy, winding road, she walked with fierce determination, mumbling prayers with every step. "Hang in there, child. I've got you. You'll be safe at my place, just hold on." A day passed. Chidoi's small wooden house, nestled quietly on the mountainside, remained still as usual, only the wind rustling through the thatched roof and the soft crackling of firewood in the kitchen could be heard. On the simple bamboo bed, Deep lay motionless, her lips dry and cracked, her face pale as snow, her breathing so faint that Chidoi often feared she might not survive. But the kind-hearted woman, with her patient hands and boundless compassion, never left her side. She didn't give up. Every few hours, she would cook a small pot of rice porridge, mash it finely, and gently feed Deep spoonful by spoonful. She brewed forest herbs, soaked a cloth in the warm water, and wiped Deep's forehead and hands. Sometimes, she just sat silently by the bed, listening to Deep's fragile breath, as if keeping vigil over a beloved family member's life. And then, by midday on the second day, Deep stirred. Her eyelids fluttered. A faint groan escaped her parched throat. Slowly, her weary eyes opened, blurry in the blazing midday light. The first thing she saw was the rustic wooden ceiling, and the face of a woman leaning over her, eyes filled with worry and warmth. "You're awake. Thank goodness!" Chidoi exclaimed, her voice trembling with relief, as if she had just saved someone dear to her. It took Deep a few seconds to gather her thoughts. She tried to lift herself, grimacing at the pain that shot through her body. Looking around, she croaked out, "Where am I? Why am I here?" Chidoi gently helped her sit up and spoke slowly. "I live nearby. The day before yesterday, on my way back from the market, I saw you lying by the forest road. You were ice cold, but still breathing. I was so scared. Thought I wouldn't make it in time. But the heavens were merciful, you pulled through." Deep's eyes welled up with tears. A rush of emotions, fear, despair, gratitude, all swelled in her heart at once. She clutched the woman's hand tightly as tears silently rolled down her cheeks. "Thank you. If it weren't for you, I..." Chidoi waved it off. "Oh, don't mention it. If someone's in trouble, I'll help. In the mountains, meeting someone like this, it's fate." Deep tried to contain her emotions and glanced out the window. The sun was now high in the sky, the air dry and clear. She gathered her strength and asked, "So, how far is it from here to town?" Chidoi smiled gently. "About 30 kilometers more. Just over that ridge, you'll hit the main road. From there, it's a straight path to wherever you need to go." Hearing that, Deep's eyes lit up. Her heart sparked with new hope. James. Just 30 more kilometers, and she could return to the one her heart longed for. After all the days of struggling, the endless fear and uncertainty, the end was finally in sight. Just a bit further. Seeing the joy on her face, Chidoy offered. "Why don't I take you there on my motorbike? It'll be easier." Deep hesitated. She looked at this woman, someone who had saved her from the depths of the forest, cared for her like a mother, and her heart tightened. This home was simple, the pot on the stove worn, the rice stored in a tiny wooden box. It was clear that Chidoy's life was not an easy one either. Deep shook her head, took the woman's hand, and said sincerely, "I can't trouble you anymore. I already owe you too much. I feel stronger now, I can walk. Besides, you still have your own life and family to take care of." Chidoy frowned. "But the road is long. Are you sure you can make it?" Deep gave a faint smile, her voice still weak but resolute. "I'll make it. Because ahead of me is hope. And someone waiting for me." She paused for a moment, then bowed deeply. "I promise, when I've regained my strength, I'll come back. I will never forget what you did for me." She suddenly remembered the fruit she had eaten that day, the ripe, reddish berries with a strange bittersweet taste, the very first thing to touch her empty stomach after days of hunger. Deep turned to Chidoy and gently asked, "Sister, that tree with the red fruit I ate the other day, what was it? I thought I'd been poisoned." Chidoy chuckled, shaking her head kindly. "Oh no, not at all. That fruit is edible. Around here, we call it rop rung, forest berry. Even people from the town come all the way up here just to buy it. It's cooling, tasty, lots of folks love it. You were probably just too hungry and weak, so your body reacted like that." Hearing this, Deep felt a jolt of clarity. A practical, and urgent, idea flashed through her mind. She would return to the forest, gather those berries, and sell them to earn money. She knew she couldn't continue empty-handed any longer. The road back to James might be near, but without some means to survive, she wouldn't make it. She needed money, for food, for strength, for the journey that still lay ahead. James was waiting. She couldn't fall here. The very next morning, while the forest was still damp with dew, Deep wrapped herself in the cloth shirt Chidoy had lent her, picked up a bamboo basket, and headed back to where she had once collapsed. The early woods remained silent and still, but to Deep, this place no longer felt like a death trap. It had become sacred, the land that had given her a second chance. She picked each ripe berry with care, avoiding bruising them, and arranged them neatly in the basket. She worked straight through the morning, without complaint, without pause. Her eyes were filled with focus and quiet hope, as if every fruit she picked was one step closer back to James. By noon, the basket was full. Deep returned to Chidoy's house, rested briefly, then washed and sorted the berries. With Chidoy's help, she headed to the local town market just a few kilometers away. And then, a small miracle happened. As soon as she laid out the fruit, its sweet aroma, vibrant red color, and Deep's humble, earnest demeanor immediately drew attention from locals and tourists alike. Someone asked, "Where did you pick these, little sister? They're beautiful, haven't seen ones like this in ages." Deep smiled gently and replied, "From the northern forest. I picked them this morning. They're very fresh." By the end of the afternoon, she had sold every last berry. Deep could hardly believe it. The small stack of cash in her hand was her very first earnings after all the hardship she had endured. It wasn't much, but to her, it felt like a blessing. She used part of the money to buy a warm, crispy baguette, a carton of milk, and a few small essentials to regain her strength. That first meal, bought with money she had earned by her own hands, nearly brought her to tears. She ate slowly, lifting her gaze toward the sky, her eyes glistening. "James, I'm on my way back to you. This time, by my own strength." As the sun dipped below the hills, Deep tightened her scarf, slung the empty basket over her shoulder, and waved a final goodbye to Chidoi. "I'm going now, sister. I'll never forget you. One day. I promise I'll come back." Chidoi hugged her tightly, saying little, only patting her back softly, a silent blessing. And then, under the last golden light of day, Deep set out once more, this time, with a full belly, renewed strength, and a heart burning with hope. While Deep was slowly recovering and searching for her way back, somewhere far away, James was also enduring long, agonizing days of waiting and pain. For nearly a week now, James had been a shadow of himself. The once busy, composed CEO, always sharp, always in control, was now a man worn thin. His clothes were dirty, his face gaunt, his eyes bloodshot from sleepless nights, and his voice raspy from the cold wind and endless rain. He had crossed forests, waded through streams, asked at ranger stations, and knocked on small mountain homes, clinging to the fragile hope that someone, anyone, had seen Deep, the woman he couldn't stop thinking about for even a second. But all he received were shaking heads and silence. That day, the rain fell again. James had run out of places to search, out of people to ask. So he turned back to Deep's little house, the place where she once lived, laughed, and made tea every morning. A flicker of hope still glimmered in his chest. Maybe she had returned there, quietly, waiting. He parked his bike in front of the old wooden house nestled in a grove, now overrun with weeds and fallen leaves. His eyes filled with longing as he stepped along the familiar path. The door was still slightly ajar, just like before. James pushed it open. A wave of cold air swept out. The scent of damp wood, dust, and something heavier, loneliness, hit him like a punch to the chest. No sound. No light. No sign of life. The house was empty, abandoned. Dust coated the chairs. The sheer curtains fluttered weakly in the wind. The old teapot still sat on the shelf. Everything was as she left it, but the warmth of Deep was gone. James stood still in the center of the room. He didn't cry. But his eyes held a grief deeper than any storm he had ever braved. Slowly, he reached out and touched the old knitted scarf Deep once made, running his fingers across it as if afraid it might disappear in his hands. Then he sighed, rolled up his sleeves, and began to clean. He wiped the tables, swept the floors, refreshed the dried flowers in the vase. He folded Deep's old clothes and placed them neatly in a drawer. He opened the back door, letting the chickens roam free. He fed the cat. He fixed up the dog's bed in the corner. He did all of it, for one reason only. If Deep came home, the house would still feel like home. When he finished, James sat on the front step, watching the light drizzle fall into the garden. Evening came. He resumed his search. This time, he visited the home of Deep's aunt and uncle, the place she had stayed briefly before she disappeared. The small house, with its familiar bougainvillea trellis, still stood at the bottom of the hill. James knocked. An elderly couple shuffled out, surprised to see a rain-soaked young man, pale and weary, standing on their doorstep with desperation in his eyes. "Good evening, Uncle, Aunt. I'm James. I'm looking for Deep. Has she come back here?" The words hung heavy in the air. They exchanged glances. The old woman let out a long sigh. "No, dear. It's been months. No one's seen her. We've been hoping she'd come home. Every day, I leave the gate open, just in case." James nodded in gratitude, trying to hide the heartbreak tightening in his chest. He left the house as quietly as he came. The rain hadn't stopped. The road blurred before him, with water, and with tears. And then, the final miracle happened. At that very moment, the search team led by Officer Lee, James's close friend and the first person who had joined him in the search, was continuing their quiet, determined sweep through the mountainous region. One group under Lee's command had been assigned to recheck narrow trails and remote villages, in case Deep had been rescued by someone but hadn't been reported. That afternoon, they ventured down a narrow path skirting the mountainside, a place rarely traveled. As they passed a small wooden hut, one young officer noticed movement and decided to stop and ask around. As soon as Chithoy saw the photo in their file, she gasped in recognition. "Oh my goodness, that's her. That's the girl I rescued a few days ago. She passed out in the forest, I carried her home and took care of her. She recovered yesterday and left. She even said goodbye to me." The officer could hardly believe what he was hearing. A lead, a real lead. Like gold. They quickly noted down her statement, confirmed Deep's identity and description, then relayed the information back to Central Command without delay. As soon as Officer Lee received the update, he could hardly contain his emotions. He immediately called James, who was still sitting in Deep's house, waiting in quiet despair. The phone rang. "James, listen to me. We have news. Someone has confirmed they rescued Deep. She's alive. She left just yesterday, and she's not far from here." On the other end of the line, James shot to his feet. His voice cracked, barely holding back the rush of emotion. "Are you serious? Deep is alive?" "Yes. A local woman found her. We're narrowing down her location right now. Come immediately." James didn't say another word. He dropped the phone, bolted out the door, and jumped onto his motorbike, the misty rain still falling all around him. Work, plans, obligations, all forgotten. In this moment, only one thing mattered. He had to find her. Along the winding, muddy road, James's tires skidded against the wet ground, mud splashing up his clothes, but he didn't care. In his mind, only one sentence echoed, over and over. "She's alive." His heart pounded louder than ever before. She hadn't vanished. She hadn't died. She was still out there, and now, just one final road away from him. So then, after all the storms and sunshine, after every quiet step taken through lonely mountains and forests, will James and Deep, two souls once lost in the flow of life, finally find their way back to each other? Will that final stretch of road lead them in the same direction? Will the long-awaited embrace finally be shared, through tears and smiles? Or, will they once again miss each other by just a heartbeat? Everything still remains a mystery. A question only answered when a sincere heart proves strong enough to conquer all distance and adversity. Stay tuned for the next episode, airing tomorrow. Where love will face its ultimate test. Where fate will finally reveal the answer. Is there a complete ending for two hearts that never stopped reaching for one another? Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the most emotional moment of this journey, one filled with tears and hope. We'll see you in tomorrow's episode.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người, hiện tại mình vừa làm xong video của nội dung về Lý Tử Diệp tập mới nhất, thì mình hy vọng rằng mọi người sẽ ủng hộ cho kênh mình nhiều hơn để kênh mình ngày càng phát triển và ổn định hơn. Thì mình sẽ cố gắng cập nhật nội dung video sớm nhất có thể để mọi người có thể theo dõi video nha mọi người. Và nếu như mọi người yêu quý kênh mình cũng như là ủng hộ cho kênh mình thì mình hy vọng rằng mọi người sẽ theo dõi kênh cũng như là sau đó là bật chuông thông báo lên để khi mà kênh mình ra video nào mới thì mọi người cũng có thể nhận được thông báo để có thể kịp thời xem. Và nếu như mà mọi người muốn video ra nhiều hơn và hay hơn thì mình hy vọng rằng mọi người sẽ ủng hộ cho kênh bằng cách like video hoặc để lại bình luận góp ý để càng ngày kênh càng hoàn thiện hơn nha. Và mọi người cũng có thể chia sẻ video này đến những người mà mọi người yêu quý hay là biết đến để người khác cũng có thể xem được video hay và ý nghĩa này. Và xin chào tạm biệt mọi người, hẹn gặp lại mọi người trong những video tiếp theo. Bye bye.